She didn't just lose control, she lost everything. The cops showed up, the kids were gone, the headlines exploded, and Amy Slaton's face said it all. That wild-eyed silence, the kind where someone's either about to scream or completely shut down. What fans didn't see, and what TLC allegedly edited out, might be darker than anything the show's ever aired. Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is Sister Wives Daily. If you thought last season was dramatic, buckle up. What happened off-camera during Amy's arrest, the whispers about producers scrambling, and the footage the network chose to hide, that changes everything. Subscribe if you're into reality TV with real consequences. And let me know in the comments, do you think reality shows exploit train wrecks, or are they just showing tough truths? Here's what we know. Amy Slaton was arrested again. Not speculation, not a rumor, real charges, real courtroom, real consequences. According to multiple public records, it wasn't a slap on the wrist situation either. The court reportedly sentenced her to 6 months behind bars, but the charges weren't even the part that hit the hardest. It was what came after. She lost custody, her children were removed, and everything that unraveled from that moment. That's where things started to go quiet, too quiet. Fans noticed almost immediately. The episode built it up, Tammy in tears at the courthouse, the judge dropping the sentence, but then fade out. We're rushed through Amy's reaction in barely a few scenes. No conversation about the kids, no raw anger, no grief spiral, just vague shots, a late-night voiceover, Tammy crying on the porch again, and that was weird. This is a show that spent full segments on doctor's appointments. Why skip the most devastating moment of the season? Allegedly, because what was filmed wasn't suitable for air. Not because it was boring, because it was real. Sources close to production say Amy broke down in ways no one was prepared for. Not ratings drama breakdowns, the kind where producers asked if cameras should be rolling at all. Crying, struggling to breathe, begging to keep her family together. Full body collapse. And no one, not the crew, not even Tammy, knew what to say. Then came the silence. According to people near her, Amy stopped answering calls. She barely left her room. Toys were untouched, baby clothes folded but unused. Her house, once messy and loud, reportedly went still, like even the walls were exhausted. And in that stillness, fans started asking questions that TLC wouldn't answer. Why were moments cut? What happened after the sentencing? Why is no one talking about where the kids are now? And if that many scenes were deleted, what do the cameras really capture when they think we're not watching? Because behind every jump cut and edited smoothie scene is a decision. And the decision to protect Amy, or to protect the network. Tammy, meanwhile, didn't stay silent, and what she allegedly said to producers might have rattled the whole show. But that part, that's coming next. First it was the courthouse, then it was her couch. By the time the cameras faded to black, Amy Slaton wasn't just off-screen, she was off-grid. The fans were watching, and they noticed. Where was the usual chaos, the side commentary, the kitchen meltdowns that usually gave the show its bite? Instead, what they got were empty spaces. Scenes that skipped from one beat to another with no resolution. Conversations clipped mid-word. Emotion cut short like someone decided the heartbreak was too inconvenient for primetime. Except heartbreak isn't easily contained. And when it's this raw, it lingers in every pause, every silence that suddenly fills the screen. Amy wasn't Amy anymore. Not on air, and not in real life, according to those around her. She was showing up in the bare minimum way, off-camera attitude gone. No sass, no sparkle, just faded expressions and body language screaming that something inside had given way. Once hyperpresent, she started fading in her own show. Fans begged for answers. What happened after court? Where are the boys? Did TLC even try to support her when everything hit the wall? But all they got were cropped storylines and avoided questions. Episode 9 opened with Tammy's weight loss arc again. As if Amy's breakdown had been a minor plot point the show was eager to move on from. And people noticed. Online threads unraveled fast. Reddit lit up with timestamps. Fans pointed out how an emotional Amy monologue teased in the trailer was gone. Gone completely. Instead, a vague sit-down with Tammy and a producer reran clip packages from past seasons. The sentiment being, don't look too close. And that's where the real spiral started. Sources from inside production forums dropped cryptic messages. One claimed parts of Amy's actual post-sentencing breakdown were so intense, even veteran crew members stopped filming. Not because it wasn't usable, but because it felt wrong. The footage included Amy allegedly sobbing uncontrollably during a call with caseworkers, repeating the same question over and over. Can I see them? Can I just see my babies? One crew member reportedly told a friend that he'd shot weddings, funerals, even explosive reunion episodes. But this felt like watching someone hit the floor from a height no one could come back from emotionally. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't marketable, and allegedly, TLC buried it. Quiet edits, audio steering things in a different direction, segments rearranged to place focus on logistics over the emotional fallout. But the real kicker, they didn't even acknowledge the change in tone. There was no context for Amy's silence. It was treated like she'd gone shy. When your star collapses like that, and your viewers are left trying to read between the edits, it stops being reality television, it starts looking like a cover-up. What we didn't see was the emotional cost. What we did see, a forced pivot. Because as Amy spiraled off camera, TLC leaned harder into the Tammy storyline. But why now and why so fast? That switch says more than any producer will. And the person who saw it happen in real time, Tammy herself, Tammy, didn't cry pretty tears, she never has. But when she was filmed pacing outside her sister's house, head down, hoodie barely hiding her face, fans couldn't agree on what exactly they were watching. Was this guilt, rage, or something deeper she'd been pushing down for too long? One thing became obvious, Tammy was now front and center, and not because she wanted the spotlight. In episode 10, the camera lingered too long on her fidgeting. On the way her voice trembled when she said, "I don't know what happens next." Fans clocked it instantly. This wasn't the same Tammy from the dramatic hospital brawls or clapbacks in the confessional chair. This was someone breaking, but holding it all in with clenched fists. But it wasn't just Tammy's reaction that caught attention, it was how long the camera suddenly decided to follow her. Whole segments pivoted around her grief, her frustration, her late-night backyard reflections. While Amy was barely on-screen, Tammy's expressions started narrating the silence. And not everyone was buying the edit. Half the fanbase flooded comments with support. "She's trying to keep it together for the family. You can see she's hurting." The other half, brutal, "She's making it about her again." Where was this energy before the arrest? Is she covering for producers now? Because here's the part that never aired, but kept getting whispered in every behind-the-scenes forum and YouTube leak. Tammy snapped at production. Not once, multiple times. Off camera, allegedly, she confronted the show's team, furious that her sister's pain was being chopped up and softened into digestible content, while the family back home was living a different kind of chaos. One supposed crew message described Tammy walking off set, mid-interview, refusing to answer any more questions unless the producers told the real story. No microphones captured what exactly she meant by that, but the next episode gave a clue. Amy's scenes were trimmed further. More focus on weight loss, cooking with cousins, almost nothing about the custody nightmare still playing out in real life. Tammy's frustration wasn't just sisterly protection. Some fans said it looked like projection, the guilt of not speaking up sooner. She'd been there through Amy's gradual unraveling and maybe ignored the signs. Or maybe she thought the show would protect them. And then came the quiet moments that didn't feel scripted. Tammy sitting in her car longer than she needed to, her saying offhandedly, "I saw it coming," before the camera cut sharp. No finish to the sentence, no resolution. When reality TV leaves sentences half finished, it's not for suspense. It's probably to protect someone with power. The louder Tammy got with producers, the quieter the final edit sounded. And instead of amplifying Amy's story, the show shuffled attention towards safe plot lines. Diets, workouts, makeup tutorials, as if trauma could be skipped through like a bad scene in reruns. But the footage that fans never saw of that one moment with Amy, when she realized her kids were gone for good, was still rumored to exist. Tammy saw it, Tammy lived it. And eventually, Tammy couldn't keep pretending the happy edits were enough. The real confrontation, that wasn't filmed. Or was it? There's one moment every insider goes silent over. The one that never made it to screen, never showed up in deleted scenes, not even in leaked trailers. And it's the only moment that, allegedly, could have explained everything. According to multiple sources floating in crew forums and whispered between fan groups, TLC allegedly filmed Amy as she received confirmation that she wouldn't be getting her kids back right away. Not joint custody. Not extended visitation. Nothing. Full removal. It didn't happen at home. It wasn't in a casual backyard scene with sad piano music overlaid. It happened in a courthouse, and they were rolling. One crew member who later walked off the season noted that Amy didn't cry right away. That's how raw it was. First she just stared, blank, processing. Then came the audio producers reportedly refused to play back later. A long, shaky breath followed by something they described as full-body despair. No screaming, No fighting. Just repeated whispers of "I lost them," over and over like she barely believed her own words. It said the cameras kept rolling for 7 minutes straight, until Amy crumpled to the floor, not fainting, but folding in on herself. And reportedly, they didn't cut because someone forgot. They didn't cut because no one could move. A field producer allegedly stepped out in tears. Even the sound guy muted his feed. That scene never aired, it never got mentioned on the show. Instead, what we saw was fast-forwarded pain, a dry face, no collapsed body, no begging, just fragments carefully selected to keep viewers sad but not uncomfortable. And that raises the question, when did TLC stop documenting a family and start curating a tragedy? Because the days following that decision weren't any better, Amy didn't stop breaking down. According to two former staff members speaking anonymously, she would sit in complete silence in her house for hours, curtains drawn, toys untouched. The same producers who once filmed manic energy and comedy prank sequences now had to confront a woman too broken to speak. They had footage, but airing it would mean showing a mother so emotionally raw, the audience might actually stop watching. Or worse, for TLC, start blaming them. That's the alleged panic button no one inside the show will officially admit to. Not just whether Amy was supported, but whether the entire situation was allowed to spiral for the sake of one more real episode. And fans started noticing, fast. Why was Amy's trauma treated like exposition? Why were scenes cut moments before breakdowns? Why did Tammy look like she wasn't following a script anymore? The people behind the cameras were suddenly trying to silence what had already been captured. But Amy wasn't done speaking, at least not yet. Because what's even more haunting than desperate crying is when the crying stops entirely, and that happened next. What producers feared most, silence that couldn't be edited. At first, they were waiting for the tears. Then they started waiting for a word, any word. Because after the court decision and the cameras stopped officially rolling, Amy Slaton stopped answering. Not figuratively, literally, she wouldn't talk. Production reportedly showed up to film a follow-up segment just 3 days after sentencing. What they found wasn't a cast member, it was a shut door, lights off, no response. Inside the house, according to leaked crew texts, one producer wrote that it felt like walking into grief. Not drama, not chaos, real grief, the kind that kills noise before it kills you. Amy had retreated so far into herself, even Tammy couldn't pull her out. Witnesses claimed she sat on the same spot on the couch for nearly 2 hours, not moving, not blinking much, staring at nothing. TLC wanted footage. They reportedly got silence. And suddenly, the team that once relied on Amy's explosive emotion and raw breakdowns to carry viewership didn't know what to do when she had no reaction left to give. Silence doesn't cut well in an edit. But in real life, it's deafening. Producers tried prompts behind the camera. Do you want to say anything? Just a little update for your fans. One insider said Amy blinked slowly, shook her head once, then looked down and didn't look up again. Everyone, it seemed, was treading the line between filming reality and profiting from collapse. And now that the collapse was too real to shape into story beats, they froze. The psychology shifted. The crew didn't panic over legal notes. They panicked over whether Amy would mentally return at all. Even the house told a story, crib toys still out, but unused. Dishes untouched. Post-it reminders about court dates still stuck beside a fridge she barely opened. A family member allegedly told the crew that Amy hadn't eaten a proper meal in 4 days. She spoke in one-word mutters. Yeah, no, later, or nothing at all. Fans watching the show had no idea. On screen, they cut to Tammy making smoothies and talking about therapy. A quick check-in with a cousin. A quiet mention that Amy was having a hard week. But off-screen, TLC had lost their central character, not because she quit, because she was somewhere inside herself even she couldn't reach. And what scared those around her most? She wasn't angry, she wasn't sobbing. She wasn't even yelling at the cameras to leave her alone, like in past seasons. She was quiet. Too quiet. Silence on a reality show isn't dead air. It's a cry for help so loud, it makes producers uncomfortable. That's when things allegedly got serious behind the scenes. Crew members started refusing to film unless mental health support was confirmed. Production meetings got tense. Editors asked what they were even stitching together anymore. Was this still entertainment? Or surveillance footage of a breakdown? But the network wouldn't kill the show so easily. And according to whispers, they were already shifting the edit toward lighter scenes. Less Amy, more Tammy. And Tammy was done playing along. Tammy had reached her limit, and it didn't happen on camera. It started with a look, the kind of look that said, "Are we seriously doing this?" A quiet, irritated glare shot across the room at a producer who just asked her to restate something, this time with a little more emotion. She snapped. According to on-set chatter, Tammy stood up from her interview chair and walked out. Didn't storm, didn't scream, she just unplugged her mic and left. A PA tried to follow, she waved them off. And whatever was said behind that locked door after, no one's repeating, but the shift in episodes tells you plenty. Suddenly, Tammy's scenes started cutting weird, shorter, jumpier. Conversations cut mid-response. Her tone fraying around the edges. Fans asked why Tammy seemed cagey, like she was constantly holding something in. And for once, it wasn't nerves or camera shyness, it was pressure. Pressure to play along. She'd seen what the show had done with Amy's pain, and allegedly she was furious. Not just at producers filming too much, but at editors choosing to show too little. Important scenes trimmed thin. Bits that explained why Amy had pulled back, gone completely. What remained was a ghost outline of a breakdown no one wanted to name. Tammy, who used to fight back in humor, now fought back by pushing cameras away. A Reddit poster claiming insider info said Tammy confronted one of the field producers during a confession shoot and flat out asked, "Are you really gonna pretend she's fine?" The feed reportedly went dead after that. The scene never aired. People watching started to notice the switch. You didn't need to know what happened off camera to feel something was missing on it. Scenes felt sanitized, overly tidy. Amy's face visible in the background, but blurred in meaning. Whole conversations seemed rushed, like someone was editing around an emotional truth too heavy to leave in. One fan described a scene as edited like an apology that didn't want to admit guilt. And that sums up the vibe. TLC didn't deny or defend, they just dodged, but Tammy couldn't. Allegedly, she begged producers not to use certain shots, said Amy didn't even know what she was saying half the time, slurred speech, blank looks, long pauses. Moments that to a viewer might come off like laziness, but to Tammy, they meant breakdown. She wanted the world to see the full story, or none of it. Editors gave fans Instagram filters and tears in moderation. Tammy knew if viewers saw what she saw, they'd stop judging Amy online and start questioning the system around her. But isn't that what the show's been dancing around for years? When your strongest voice starts begging for silence, and your network edits around it, the story you're telling isn't just wrong, it's incomplete. And as Tammy's frustration grew, so did fans' suspicion. What is this show hiding? Why dim the light on the most serious moment of the series? Why is everything conveniently choreographed around the damage? The answers weren't coming from TLC, but online. The backlash was just getting started. The internet doesn't wait for context, it hunts for targets. And once Amy's arrest became public, she became one. At first, it was gossip. A few viral TikToks, screenshots of court papers, memes, but it didn't stop there, it snowballed. Reddit threads multiplied. Hundreds of comments a day. Twitter timelines flooded with hot takes. Facebook groups lit up with speculation, screenshots, side-by-sides, every angle analyzed like a crime scene. Amy's every tear, blink, and breath in old episodes was suddenly evidence. The popular question wasn't, is she okay? It was, when did we miss the signs? But that curiosity turned fast. People stopped being curious and started being cruel. Posts calling her unfit, tweets joking about her losing the kids, edits comparing her to bad moms from other shows. Whole threads mocking her breakdowns with laughing emojis and side commentary asking if jail would make her finally shut up. It wasn't satire, it was bullying. And for someone already cracked beneath the surface, it wasn't just noise, it was poison. Sources close to Amy say she saw everything. Not some of it, all of it. Allegedly, she was staying off social media for a bit after sentencing, but in late-night silence, old habits kicked in. She'd log back in, scroll, unsee what she couldn't. One relative told a former crew member that Amy would go through hundreds of comments in one sitting, only stopping when she started crying or fell asleep with the phone still in her hand. Imagine trying to process the loss of your children while strangers repost stills of you crying, setting it to dance music, laughing at how dramatic you looked. One source said she deleted Instagram 3 times, only to re-download it an hour later. Another claimed she once asked, "Do they want me gone?" Not as a figure, gone. And that's when family, friends, and reportedly even one producer got scared. This wasn't fan backlash, it was a digital pylon. And for someone deep in an emotional collapse, those screens might as well have been neon signs reminding her of every mistake she ever made. The editing silence around her story only made it worse. Without context, the public made their own. Assumptions filled the gaps TLC left open. To those viewers, Amy wasn't a mother grieving the loss of her kids. She was a cautionary tale, a character arc that fell off the rails. And instead of wondering where it went wrong, people started asking if she even deserved sympathy. Even Tammy's attempts to post neutral updates were hijacked. Fans demanding more transparency, others accusing her of sugarcoating. Under every picture she shared, there were comments crying out for the truth or dragging her for protecting a criminal. No nuance survived. The pressure cooked faster than anyone predicted. And behind the curtain, even TLC was allegedly watching the backlash stack up. According to one rumor shared on a crew subreddit, network staff were told to avoid engaging with fan commentary, even if it involved misinformation. The directive wasn't to correct, it was to disappear. Let the socials run wild. Let the outrage divert focus. When silence becomes strategy, the truth gets decided by the loudest voices, not the closest witnesses. And no one was louder than the ones typing in judgment from behind screens. But here's the problem. Amy didn't ask to live her lowest moment publicly. She signed on for a show. She didn't sign on for mass character assassination. The show skipped her pain. The audience edited it in their own way, with no mercy, no forgiveness, and no full picture. And the more vicious the takes got, the harder it became for Amy to believe she was worth rebuilding at all. Tammy saw it. TLC stayed quiet. Social media turned into a firestorm that didn't just attack Amy's choices, it made her feel like she had nowhere left to go. And the result, the Amy Slaton fans once knew began to fade. What was left, according to those who knew her best, was just a name online, under posts that she couldn't stop reading, in a loop she couldn't close, feeding a shame so heavy, even time on the inside couldn't reduce it. They thought she wouldn't read them. That she'd be too busy, too far gone, too deep in her own storm. But Amy Slaton was watching, she saw it all. The memes were the first thing to hit, not subtle ones. Full-on reaction gifs of her crying, edited with quotes that never happened. Then came the TikToks, clips of her arrest spliced with sound effects and sarcastic captions that racked up hundreds of thousands of views. They weren't just mocking her breakdown, they were monetizing it. Across fan forums, people argued whether she deserved sympathy at all. One Reddit post titled Amy Slaton, a tragic victim or a dangerous parent, gathered more than 1,000 comments in a day. Strangers debated her fitness as a mother like it was entertainment. The tone wasn't concern, it was judgment disguised as analysis. As if emotional collapse was plot development. People speculated about drugs, about neglect, about what wasn't said in the show. They pulled screenshots from older seasons to accuse her of being unstable all along. It wasn't commentary. It was character assassination, and it was happening in real time. Then came the DMs. A close contact allegedly leaked that Amy's inbox filled with brutal messages, some accusing her of ruining her kids' lives, others calling her a fraud, and a few that crossed into explicit threats. One message read, "You lost your kids because you're trash, end of story." She didn't respond, but she saw it. Worse, those around her say Amy didn't log out, she scrolled, she checked tags, she read threads sometimes for hours. Some nights, she'd cry while reading, delete the app, then download it again the next morning, unable to stop looking. One insider who had worked with production before said they flagged it, told a producer that Amy was absorbing everything. But there was nothing built into their contract that protected her from digital cruelty. TLC wasn't responsible for the fans, except those fans formed because of the show. In not showing the full story, cutting scenes of Amy's breakdown, withholding the grief, the full cost of what she was experiencing, viewers were left to fill in the blanks. And when viewers fill in blanks without information, they often choose the worst answer. When you're reduced to an edit, the world starts treating your reality like fiction. It didn't matter that Amy wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. Every time she opened her phone, she saw a version of herself that didn't match the person she was trying to survive as. And each brutal comment chipped away at the little thread of dignity she still had left to hold onto. Friends noticed the shift, she stopped calling. Her responses became robotic. When asked how she was doing, she'd pause and say, "Fine, nothing more," because everything else she could say was already being twisted by someone online. And inside that silence, Amy started to fade, not physically, emotionally. Her identity, her voice, her sense of worth, all drowned by a crowd cheering her fall, not realizing they'd already pushed her off the edge. There are breakdowns you can bounce back from. Then there's what happened to Amy Slaton in the days before she went in. The cameras didn't capture her last days with the boys, not because they weren't there, but because no one dared to air that footage. Multiple insiders allege it exists. That's the word they keep repeating. Haunting. Not dramatic, not chaotic, haunting. Amy was allowed one supervised visit before serving her sentence. A short window, carefully coordinated. No cameras allowed for the actual exchange, but according to someone close to the family, she asked for one thing: don't let them see me cry. She couldn't hold that promise. Her kids ran to her, according to the same source, not understanding the gravity. They brought silly toys, scribbled pictures. Her oldest showed her a bruise from falling off a tricycle. Amy knelt down, smiled. Tried to respond the way you're supposed to. That's okay, baby, mommy's here. But her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. They say she held both boys close and just started repeating, I love you so much. I love you so much. Over and over, like that one phrase might make them remember. Might tether her to something beyond those four walls and the ticking countdown before she left. When the goodbye time was up, it wasn't loud. It wasn't a scene. She stood, kissed their foreheads, smiled, turned, and then collapsed into the arms of the family member escorting her out of the facility. One producer later told someone off the record. She looked like someone at her own funeral. And it wasn't a line for sympathy. It wasn't clickbait. It was because Amy had stopped looking like Amy. In the final days before turning herself in, neighbors said her home was silent. Curtains drawn, TV off, no lights at night. Packages sat untouched on the porch. A cousin who came to check in described her as barely blinking. She'd sit in the nursery, staring at the empty crib, not crying, not speaking. Just sitting, breathing, but nothing inside. And still, TLC aired cheerful montages of days long gone, her laughing about diapers, baking with Tammy, holding one of the boys in a flashback, but those images didn't land the same anymore. Because now people knew. Now, even the viewers asking the harshest questions could feel something wasn't right. The bright music didn't match the hollow expressions. The cut scenes felt criminal. Amy wasn't absent, she had become background. And as her sentencing approached, she wasn't preparing or coping. She was vanishing. Piece by piece. Those closest to her said she stopped checking messages. The burner phone TLC had provided was turned off completely. Postcards from fans never opened. Clothes for court folded in a laundry basket that she never touched again. And when the truck arrived to take her in, no crew followed. No B-roll footage. No mic pack. Just one final moment outside her front door, Amy turning to lock up a house that no longer felt like home. And that's the real question, the one no one wants to ask out loud. Did the show just document her lowest moment, or did they help create it? When a breaking point becomes a storyline, and silence becomes content, there's no undoing the damage. Because it wasn't just her spirit that broke. It was her ability to see herself outside of a lens. So where does someone go after that? Tammy thought she knew, but the next wave of fallout, she wasn't ready for it either. The show started as a punchline. Two sisters, a camera crew, and a mix of chaos and heart that made people laugh, cry, scroll, and share. Over time, that punchline became a story, then a headline, then a cautionary tale. But now it's something else entirely. Something heavier, something quieter. And the silence isn't just coming from Amy. It's in TLC's tight-lipped response. It's in Tammy's quiet shade on Instagram stories. It's in the episodes that turn away from the real timeline and replace it with confessionals that feel like stalling. You feel it now, even in the promos. The discomfort, the tension between what viewers want to know and what the show is willing to tell. The Slaton family didn't just hit a rough patch, they hit a narrative wall. And now, everyone's asking, can they come back from this? Can Amy return to camera after losing everything on it? Can Tammy stay on screen, knowing what her sister endured was allegedly clipped out, reorganized, watered down? Will viewers keep tuning in, knowing that some of the most devastating scenes were scrapped, not for protection, but for polish? There's something different now. Fans who used to repost clips for fun now ask the harder questions. People are wondering who's really in control. Amy's collapse was raw, sure, but it wasn't sudden. If anything, the clues had been building for months. Weight gain, withdrawn smiles, long silences in scenes where she used to dominate. And if TLC saw all that, edited all that, packaged all that, when did it become exploitation? Everyone loves a transformation story. That's what kept people watching through rehab, through surgeries, through loss. But you can't fast forward the fallout. Tammy's arc is next. Her physical change shocked everyone. She looks different, she talks differently. But after everything with Amy, some fans aren't excited. They're cautious, because now they wonder, did Tammy really grow on her own terms, or under the same pressure that broke her sister? And if producers helped push one sister past her cliff, what did they ask from the other in exchange for airtime? That's the tension breathing under every new episode. The drama's still there, the tears still come, but now there's an edge to it. Now people are paying attention to what's cut, not just what's shown. Whether the Slaton family continues on the show or not, one thing is clear: the audience isn't the same. They've seen too much. They know there's a cost, so maybe this isn't just reality TV anymore. Maybe it's the reckoning that finally makes people responsible for how much they'll watch before they look away. And now that Tammy is stepping forward solo, the next chapter isn't just about her. It's about whether she'll stand with Amy or become the polished product TLC needs her to be. That's the real story, and it's only just beginning.